This holiday season, step aboard a Seattle tradition, the Argosy Cruises Christmas Ship Festival. Take in the holiday magic on the official Christmas ship, the Spirit of Seattle, adorned in hundreds of sparkling lights as she brings festive cheer to waterfront communities across Puget Sound. Enjoy live onboard caroling from local choirs, holiday-inspired drinks, and of course, Santa himself. With every ticket, Argosy donates to the Seattle Times Fund for Those in Need, supporting several local charities. Create memories that sparkle. Visit argosycruises.com and book your Christmas ship cruise today. CityCast Seattle is made possible by AT&T. America's first network is also its fastest and most reliable. Based on RootMetrics' United States Root Score Report, 1H 2025. Tested with best commercially available smartphones on 3 national mobile networks across all available network types. Your experiences may vary. RootMetrics rankings are not an endorsement of AT&T. When you compare, there's no comparison. AT&T. This is CityCast Seattle. I'm Jane C. Hu, and here's what Seattle's talking about. Today on CityCast Seattle, we're talking about Seattle movies and the future of the film industry in Washington State. So this weekend saw the release of a movie called Train Dreams, which was a local production shot right here in Washington State. And that's actually pretty rare. But before we get into that, Chase Hutchinson, critic and journalist at the Seattle Times and a contributor to KOW, what is your favorite movie that is set in Seattle or the Pacific Northwest?
I might go 10 Things I Hate About You.
Hey, that's my pick. Yeah. All right.
Sorry for stealing. And technically it's Seattle stealing Tacoma's moment in the spotlight because most of it is in Tacoma, but we can get into that.
Yeah, that big house was for sale. And I remember a bunch of my journalist friends and I were like, what if we all went in on this mansion? It'd be so sick to live in that house. All right, well, what about you, creative producer Liam Billingham? What is your favorite movie set in Seattle or the Pacific Northwest?
Stakeout, the 1987 classic starring Emilio Estevez and Richard Dreyfuss, but shot mostly in Vancouver. So, alas.
Like I mentioned, my pick is also 10 Things I Hate About You. I think about that paintball scene like all the time when they're in Gasworks Park. I'm like, we should just make Gasworks into a paintball course, or at least like part of it. Wouldn't that be amazing? But yeah, I mean, that got me thinking about how seeing the Pacific Northwest represented in film is fairly rare, right? I remember a few years ago when the Netflix adaptation of the memoir Made came out, which is supposed to be set in this area. I could tell based on the ferry scenes that it was not shot here. And I think from looking at the internet, it was shot in Vancouver like so many other things are. Okay, so now we've got Train Dreams, this movie that just came out over the weekend. And that was filmed here in the Pacific Northwest. Why did they choose to bring that movie here? And I guess what does it say about the potential for other filmmakers to try and pull something off like this?
I think it would be that it shows there's the talent pool. There is a talented crew that I've been spending the last few weeks talking with for a piece that's going to come out later that can do this, that can really make something magnificent with good resources, but still limited resources. The biggest thing is Train Dreams can be this calling card. It can demonstrate, hey, we have talented craftspeople that can make this work. You can make a great movie with great people that captures that texture, that authenticity that other films just are lacking.
What is the texture that shooting a movie here provides?
It's the lived in locations and the history that is brought with them that to me really can resonate, can really speak across generations and times to where even if you aren't as quite as detailed knowledge about Washington's film history, you can see, oh, this is a new thing. You can feel that.
I'm thinking about last season of The Last of Us, where there's, that scene where they're coming into Seattle and people went nuts about all of the inaccuracies in it. Like,
oh, really? Like what? I didn't know this.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think they were supposed to be coming up I-5 towards Seattle, but the signage was not correct.
That's even getting before there's the person in the Space Needle overlooking the city, which makes zero sense based on where the Space Needle is, but that's neither here nor there.
So Train Dreams was filmed here in the Pacific Northwest. Do you all know where the shooting spots actually were?
It's all over. It's in the River State Park Bowl and Pitcher area near Spokane. It's the Empire Theater in Toccoa. It's the state park near North Bend. They really do a full tour of the state, which is also one of those things that's great because in Washington and a lot of places, if you travel just a little bit one way or the other, the landscape changes. And this is probably one of the most like grounded in Washington movies of its like size and scope that I can really think of like this in recent memory. And that's the part that resonated really with me.
Liam, you've seen the movie. Like, can you say a little bit about how would you describe the movie?
Chase, you've seen this movie 5 times according to Letterboxd, so feel free to jump in. I mean, simply, this is like the story of one man's life as he helps to build the Pacific Northwest at the turn of the century and the sort of good and tragic things that befall him. It's also sort of about how the people that build these places are often left behind by them and they don't understand the world that they've built, I think is a way to think about it. We're kind of experiencing this world through one haunted main character's eyes, if that makes sense. It's jumping around in time and there's a lot of memory and flashback and even some flash forward in it. And I think the reason it has to be shot in the region that it takes place is without that like verisimilitude, you as an audience member, I think there would be like a little bit of like, this doesn't feel authentic.
Like you were saying, Liam, it's based on the life of a man named Robert Grenier. He's a day laborer. He's a logger. He's constantly putting himself in harm's ways to build this part of the region. And it's very dangerous work. It's very breathtaking. It's very beautiful. But I've been trying to caution people, I don't think this is this solely romantic portrait of the region. It's a pretty painful, shattering, haunting experience about violence and displacement and the way people make sense of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Or
There's
don't.
a lot of ugly history there, too,
yes.
Right? Like, it does not gloss over the just general racial unrest in that time. Not to spoil too much, but like a Chinese man gets killed within the first like 10 minutes of this movie. And I can't say I loved how this movie handled that, but I do think that it is an effort to portray a warts and all history of the Pacific Northwest and kind of the costs that were borne by people to actually build these railroads and build up this area. But I think it also is a matter of, you know, whose story are we telling, whose story are we not telling, right? And a movie can't do everything. But I totally agree that it would not have been as powerful if the place that it was so clearly telling the story of wasn't actually portrayed in the movie at all. It seems like that was a necessity in order for that to even make sense.
I think what you were saying, Jane, about racist violence, I think that's something that people should rigorously talk about because there is a fraught conversation about, well, is this filtering it through the story of a white man feeling guilt for his semi-complicity in what happened or him not standing up against it? And is that a fraught thing? I think the movie is aware of those things, but I look forward to more people getting to see it and talk about it because there is that history. I live in Tacoma, and there was a pretty significant expulsion of the Chinese community in Tacoma that even when it kind of died down, that's a decades-long impact on a people, on a community that this film is in conversation with, but from a specific perspective. And so I'm looking forward to more people talking about that, criticizing that, discussing that part of it, because it's a painful, visceral history that you're putting your film in conversation with. And if you don't really think about that and take that seriously, that's a tough thing to just kind of throw out there in some ways.
I will say that as a Chinese person watching that movie, that immediately made me feel like maybe this movie is not for me. And I don't know. It's like, I live in the world. I've seen enough art made by white men primarily that I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to sit back and experience this as a movie that was made for white men about a white man. But I also feel like there are many other wonderful aspects to that film. Like, I do think that it being filmed here was like a large part of the appeal for me. I was like, this is beautifully shot. This is very thoughtful storytelling. And clearly a lot went into making this just visually beautiful, which you don't always see that attention to detail in film anymore. And we'll talk about what it takes to make a movie like this in Washington State after the break. The holidays are coming up. Maybe you've got family coming to town and you want to show them a good time. Or maybe you have a few days off and you want to treat yourself to a little staycation. One of my favorite things is to hop on the ferry and head over to Bainbridge Island. I always feel like I'm in a movie when I'm on the ferry, like whether they're the dramatic views of the Seattle skyline or just moody fog. And once you're on Bainbridge, there's a lot to do. Their downtown is super close to the ferry terminal, and you can just go right over and do your holiday shopping. Like, there's this amazing antique store where I once got these Japanese woodcut coasters that I get compliments on all the time. You could also check out the Bainbridge Bakery Trail. There are 10 bakeries and cafes with vegan and gluten-free options, all within walking distance of the ferry, and another 6 if you've got wheels. Go to visitbainbridgeisland.org and check out the bakery trail under things to do. Or follow Visit Bainbridge on Instagram at Visit Bainbridge Island WA. So, what kinds of resources were necessary to make this film in Washington?
It again was mostly just tapping into the crew. Where you're talking about like building this world, there's the one shot where they're cutting out the inside of a tree and then someone is laying in it.
Yes.
They made that tree. That's not a real tree. And I tend to not like to pull back the magic too much, but with this one, it's seamless. You completely believe that they have built this thing. So that is production designers, that is artistic directors, that is craftspeople making this, and that requires investment and money and time and traveling everything out there. Like, there's an entire cabin that they built in the woods that then they needed to find a way to have a production around it. They did use a lot of natural light, but there's also a lot of things you need.
Like trucks and vehicles parked next to it with giant lights illuminating it and making it. And they hire local for that. I would assume they're bringing in production from Seattle or from the Pacific Northwest largely and the infrastructure that exists here.
Yes, and it's a job creator. It really is, because it's not just the production. It's the entire economy around it benefits from these types of productions. And so anything you can do to kind of offer them support, which is a lot of what Washington Filmworks does, is they provide some of those resources and assistance. It still is that, and not even just Washington competing versus Los Angeles or Atlanta or somewhere else, but Washington competing against the rest of the world. There's been a pretty kind of tough post-strikes production challenge that a lot of filmmakers I've talked to are seeing, where work is tough, to where even as there is this great movie like Train Dreams that I have heard has led to an interest from other people wanting to come in and shoot here, it's still not an easy time right now to be a filmmaker shooting anywhere, frankly.
Yeah, and then earlier this week, we got the news that Kane County Council put Harbour Island Studios on the chopping block. Can you say a little bit about what Harbour Island does and what this means for that future? If people are interested in coming here, is eliminating funding for that going to potentially turn people off?
So Harbour Island Studios is a 117,000 square foot facility that has 2 sound stages. King County spent $1.5 million to open it in 2021. And it's become a place where many productions have happened. I don't know if anyone saw the Adult Swim series, 3 Busy Debras, the kind of beloved cult series. they shot here, and they probably wouldn't have otherwise. And there's also been local filmmakers who have begun to do work there or begin to get training in being a filmmaker. It's become a real community. And so this past Tuesday, people showed up to say, this is making us not just more competitive, but a real film community, a real place where you can do this work, where talented people can hone their craft. And if we lose that, because the ending outcome was they gave them a reprieve essentially of 6 months, but they said they're not going to dip into the general fund anymore after that. So these next 6 months, there's going to have to be some sort of longer term solution to preserve this space. Otherwise, all of the concerns that people have and the kind of hit that the local creative economy and local artists could take would be a pretty significant one.
Yeah, and I think if you look back at the history of local film production, what you see is that like productions that come in from other places teach local film artists how to make things professionally. And so what you're doing is you're equipping the local community with the ability to make things that can match what historically has come out of cities like New York and LA, but no longer can for economic reasons.
Yeah, it just builds on itself over time, right? Like if you don't have the industry, you're not going to bring new people in. You're not going to be able to grow the like weirdo arts community that you want to have on the ground, right? Like, and that takes money. I mean, what is the best case scenario here? Like, okay, let's say like Train Dreams wins an Oscar. Do we have a path forward that people are trying to point towards? Are we hoping for more government subsidies? What is going to move this forward potentially?
The thing I would say is that Train Dreams, the art in and of itself stands alone. The awards don't matter. The only thing is the awards could put a spotlight on the people that made it. And maybe that could lead to more people trying to take a chance or a slight uptick in production. That's what people obviously always hope for. But these structural things, this investment on a statewide level, those things are also critical. Preserving somewhere like Harbour Island. Train Dreams winning an Oscar is not going to be like flipping a light switch and suddenly there are 50 movies that are shooting here. It's going to be a...
That's too bad.
I know, I wish. It's going to be a lot.
That would be sick.
It would be very cool. Train Dreams 2, Fast and Furious, all of it. It's going to be great.
two Fast and Furious, Train Dreams, 2 trains, 2 dreams.
Yeah. But I think it's a lifelong thing that people have dedicated themselves to building however they can with community. And the encouraging thing was seeing all the people come out to speak against the cuts to Harbour Island. That was that community in action. There are people dedicated to doing this. And if they can get support, we could begin to see a growth of the local industry here.
Not everything is Train Dreams, and most things that would get made at a place like Harbour Island are not Train Dreams, right? They're studio spaces that can shoot television, that can shoot video podcasts, that like the bread and butter of those places is not something like this. But if you can see that the craft is high quality enough here, people will start to look at this as an alternative to shoot in more expensive. Not to say that it's cheap to do that kind of work here, but a big goal of this is to bring production back to the US and to cities specifically rather than shooting them abroad, because you want weird arty people, and weird arty people subsist on working on high quality products and make stuff the rest of the time that they want to make. And that's what fuels an interesting local city.
Well, speaking of, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about where those weird arty people are actually going to see their movies. Okay, so switching from making movies to seeing movies, there's been some news about movie culture here in Seattle this week. Chase, you broke the news that SIFF director Tom Mara is leaving his role as SIFF's executive director effective immediately. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on with that?
The history here is Tom Mara came aboard after being at KEXP, retiring from KEXP, to then be executive director of SIFF. And this was around 2022. And he did many things that caught people's attention. They acquired the Cinerama. They rechristened it the SIFF Cinema Downtown. They reopened that. But then earlier this year, there were pretty substantial layoffs that I also had reported on. Specifically, there was a 21% reduction of administrative staff, which was 9 full-time people. And that might not sound like a lot, but for a small arts organization, that's a big hit. That's an impact to programming, the type of community engagement that they were hoping to expand. And then earlier this year, they also didn't renew the lease at the SIFF Egyptian, which had been closed due to flooding, which was for many people their theater. It was their beloved place to go see movies. It was closer to them in Capitol Hill area. It was their big thing. And so Tom not having his own contract renewed is kind of the culmination of all of these different events. I want to be clear, there are many people I've spoken to that said, this is a challenging proposition to run an indie theater. Right. It is not that any one person has like the perfect plan for how to crack this. There are people all around the country trying to figure out how to make this work as audience habits have shifted, as the strike has had impacts, as people just don't go out to the movies and instead sit at home. These are all big questions. And to connect it back to Train Dreams, if one of the most striking, breathtaking movies is playing on Netflix in 2 weeks, are you going to go out and see it in a theater?
It does feel like the kind of movie you would definitely want to watch in a theater. It's so beautifully shot. I mean, can you even see Train Dreams in a theater? Is that an option for people, or is this only on Netflix?
It played at the Landmark Crest Cinema, and then also as a disclosure, my colleagues and I in the Seattle Critics Society did do a Seattle premiere before that. I think everyone would go to see it if it was at SIFF if they could. I can't say that with certainty. Sometimes things flop when you don't really understand why, or sometimes things do great and you have no idea why they did great. But it is that the industry is shifting under everyone's feet more and more. The pandemic had a big impact on this. Why would you go out?
For people who are maybe interested in plugging into the theater, the film scene, who are not in the know, like I know SIFF exists. I've been to films at SIFF. I love Cinerama back when it was still Cinerama. To be honest, I haven't been since because I wasn't sure about the status of its opening and it just hasn't come up for me. How can folks either connect to or reconnect to, in some cases, the film scene here? Like, where do you guys like to see films?
I would say it's important to understand that SIFF is the biggest independent theater here, but it's not the only one. There is the Northwest Film Forum. There is the Beacon. Each of them have their own specific identity in many ways. At the Beacon, there was a series of films that I think generally could fit under body horror, but also were so much more than that a few months ago. I was blown away was Playing in the City. Like that was, to me, a more exciting series of films than you could find anywhere in the country during that month. I would say just try and find those places. Find those film series that really stand out to you. It doesn't always have to be new films. It can be older films. There are repertory movies that play. And it honestly is just once you start going and getting in the habit of it, and also you can go alone to a movie. It's a nice experience.
The best way to do it.
Yeah, I don't know why you would go with people, to be honest.
I think
you can't talk during the movie.
I think it can be nice to talk after the movie or have like a coffee or something. But it can be nice just to catch a movie and see something that was exciting or new that was like never on your radar. But if you look beyond some of the big movies that everyone's talking about and everybody has heard about, you can find some really exciting stuff. And I do think there are still currently, knock on wood, movie theaters in Seattle that play those. And you need to support them. That's the big conclusion. If anyone is listening to this, if you want to see these places continue to survive, go out and support them as much as you can.
Totally. And I think, one of the things, the holidays are coming up, and I think a great gift for a burgeoning cinephile is a membership to a place like SIFF or something along those lines. That's what I'm asking for Christmas. We've mentioned movie theaters, but also Seattle's home to Scarecrow Video, which is the largest public rentable archive. Chase, is it in the world? Certainly in the country. I mean, that place is has everything. It has I was there yesterday and a guy rented a VHS and he had to pay a deposit because it's one of 3 copies in the world. I mean, it is no joke. And and they also offer memberships. You can support them. I mean, the reality is that all of these things are moving into nonprofit territory to survive, and that's a great way to spend your money. And again, what I keep coming back to, why are we talking about this at all, is that film production and film culture create community. And I think that like that's what we are all investing in. And it's very easy to forget that, like, you know, not to get on a soapbox, but it's very easy to forget that, like, I am.
Ride it.
The final product, the Train Dreams, is the end result of a whole bunch of people coming together to make something from different backgrounds and working on a film, and they're building sort of the community around them. And that can happen in a movie theater, it can happen in a movie store, but like they're beacons of community that I grew up going to, and I don't want them to disappear, because otherwise we're just at home watching something suggested to us by an algorithm, and I hate to say it, but that's kind of gross. Soapbox finished. Headphones off.
End of episode. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I do feel like movies were such a bigger part of our social, cultural lives even 10 years ago. And streaming has really changed the game. It used to be an anomaly to have people over to like specifically watch a movie. It'd be so much easier to go see the newest movie out at the theater. And I know COVID lockdown era definitely put us out of practice of going to films, but time that we exercise that muscle again and get back out there.
The thing I was going to say is that like that definitely is the struggle, but I think nothing will quite replace that experience of seeing that movie that changes the way you look at the world, that blows you away, whatever that may be, whether it's a horror film, like The Ring that was shot here, one of the only good studio remakes of a horror movie that was shot locally, or a sci-fi movie like Prospect, which had Pedro Pascal and was shot locally before Pedro Pascal was a big name, and they took us to a faraway planet. There are imaginative experiences being made and shown locally that you can see and you should see to make sure that they continue to happen.
All right, everyone. Listen to Chase Hutchinson. Go see films that take you to another world. Chase, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And Liam, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you. Go to the movies, guys.
Go to the movies.
Gals. And theys, thems.
That's all from us here at CityCast Seattle. I'm your host, Jane C. Hu. And listeners, we want to hear from you. Send us your news tips, your questions, hot goss, or your favorite Seattle movies by sending an email to seattle@citycast.fm. You can also text us or leave us a voicemail on the CityCast movie hotline at 206-880-3931. If you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. Even better, leave us a review. You can get more local news and events delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter. Just go to seattle.citycast.fm. You know, it'd be really great is if we had movie times like they used to have on the old hotlines.
Or we were like the Seattle movie phone. Welcome to Movie Phone.
That's our next venture.